Good morning, fans. Thank you for joining us this morning again as we now are meeting to review the test team that takes on England come July. That's next month. And we also will be discussing USA win over Pakistan yesterday. And we also will be talking about West Indies and West Indies and you know
Uganda.
which teams? West Indies
You,
and Uganda, right? And Uganda that comes up tomorrow, and we'll be looking to give you our thoughts and views on that with the West Indies and Uganda. Also, the test team to England and the fantastic win that USA had over Pakistan yesterday. Fans from around the world, everywhere you are, whether night, day, or afternoon, we love and appreciate you and thank you for joining us, especially those in New York, in Kingston, in Georgetown, Guyana, in Dhaka Division, Bangladesh, in Saudi Arabia, just about everywhere in New Delhi that you join us. Thank you for tuning in this morning. We are a little late, but nevertheless, we're on and we're ready to bring you your favorite cricket show as we dive now into this cricket show. First, I want to welcome ever been with us the executive chair of the Cricket Hall of Fame in Connecticut, United States, the first Hall of Fame which returns as the sponsor for our show, Michael Chambers. We also have with us fellow journalists and Cricket Hall of Famer, also a contributor to our academy, Mr. John Melbourne. We have also fellow journalists and the honorary secretary of the Cricket Hall of Fame, Mr. Dale Brown, joining us once again. We have last but certainly not least, a member of the cricket show, also a fellow Jamaican and a journalist living now in the Sunshine State of California, journalist Dennis Eat, recently nominated to be inducted in the Cricket Hall of Fame come October 5th. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for joining us. Please say good morning to the fans from all around the world. Then we'll look to dive first into the test team, then the USA win, and we'll close out by talking about West Indies game tomorrow for the upcoming second game in the World Cup with West Indies and Uganda.
Good morning to my fellow panelists and a warm welcome to all the viewers and listeners wherever you are in the world. We appreciate your presence. Thank you for joining us.
a very good morning to you, panelists, and to our viewers around the world. Thank you so much for joining us once again this morning as we talk cricket in general, particularly West Indies cricket, and hope you enjoy our presentation over the next few minutes. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone worldwide. I am happy to be here joining this presentation with the other members of the panel. And we are sure that this show will be informative to all. Good morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, panelists. This is Mike Chambers from the Cricket Hall of Fame. Welcome to another edition of the Development Cricket West Indies Development Academy show. And we hope that we can impart some knowledge to everyone and learn something from what's going on in this Cricket World Cup today.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your opening thoughts. We're looking at West Indies test team for the upcoming tour of the UK, the United Kingdom, and they are our oldest enemy. First West Indies toured the United Kingdom in 1928, where we played our first test match over there. And since then, we have had an ongoing relationship in test cricket with England. Dr. Ains, which is the lead selector, some in the space said that the reason this team came out the time it came out is because whispers are that his contract, which was a 4-year contract, the end of that contract comes at the end of this month. And as a result of that, he took the opportunity to pick the test team one last time. This is the team that he picked. Craig Brathwaite, Azari Joseph as the vice captain. Craig Brathwaite continuing to be the captain. Azari Joseph continues to be an all-format player and also an all-format vice captain. Alec Athenies, Joshua De Silva, Jason Older returning. Kevin Hodge, Tevin Imla, Shamar Joseph, Michaela Lewis, Zachariah McKiskey, Kurt McKenzie, Godeshi Muti, Kima Roach, Jaden Seals, and Kevin Sinclair to finish out the squad. Your thought, John Melbourne, on Hall of Famer John Melbourne, on the West Indies test team, then the others will pick up after you.
Good morning once again, listeners. I would have liked to have seen Casey Carty in this 15-man squad. However, be that as it may, the youngster Michael Louis is in the squad, and if he makes his test debut, he'll be the first Kititian to play to wear the maroon cap. He scored over almost 700 runs actually for the Leewards in the recent Cricket West Indies regional 4-day tournament. There were 3 centuries included in that, including a top score of 130 and a few scores over 50. Tajnarain Chanda Paul has been dropped from the squad. However, we see the return of Jaden Seals, the Trinidad and Tobago pacer, as well as Jason Holder. I think it will be interesting to see if we use our 3 speedsters, Azari Joseph, Shamar Joseph, and Jaden Seals in the test matches, of course, along with the medium pace of Jason Holder. All in all, I think it's a good squad. I would have liked to have also seen Brandon King in this team, but apparently they are regulating him to white ball cricket. But we shall, I'm looking forward to the opening test match at Lord's actually on July 10th. And that's where I'll leave my comments for now.
Well, I'm happy with the squad. But like Brother John just said, Brandon King, I don't know, maybe we could make him water boy. I don't know. He should be in somewhere in the squad because I kind of liked how his aggression. I am glad that Holder is back. I sort of knew that was going to happen because he just coming off a good stint in England, so it would have been fatal to leave him off the squad. Cameron Roach back in the squad. Shamari Joseph, so I am hoping that Roach will be able to counsel and mentor Shamari Joseph coming forward, so Joseph will be able to take Roach's place at some early stage of the game. But the squad looks good, and they're, like I said, they're going into England. England is not in a good place right now, so it's going to be an even matchup. So I am happy with the squad.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, performance is what drives how we operate in most areas of life, and that includes cricket. I've selected a team which may be similar but not exactly alike to the West Indies. For my batters, I would select from Brathwaite, De Silva, Hodge, Imlach, Louis, and Sinclair. My bowlers, I would select from Roach, Seal, Alzari Joseph, Shamar Joseph. Would have perhaps Holder and Moti are two that is there tentatively, but we could discuss that later. When I get back to performance metric, I'm thinking that in the 2024 season of the 4-day championship, we have players such as Jangu, who managed to have an average of 100, having scored in the top bracket of West Indies performance, 500 runs. We have Casey Carty, who scored nearly 500 runs with an average of 41. We have Jewel Andrews, the young 19-year-old. He scored 356 runs over the series with average of 32. And of course, we've got Alec Athanase. For me, those four players possibly should be discussed in terms of their inclusion in the side. On the bowling side, I would also consider Ned, 33 wickets, one of the top wicket takers in the last championship. Cornwall, now I know Cornwall is a, shall we say, a controversial selection, but nonetheless, we're speaking of the performance metric. So why not consider Cornwall? Why not consider Jay Louis? I think it's Jamie, is it? Or Jay Louis, who's taken 30 wickets. And of course, Anderson Phillip, 29 wickets. Because the major wickets taken during the series have been very low. Gudakesh Moti, I believe he managed a mere 5 or 11 wickets he managed 19 wickets at an average of 18 during last. So it makes me wonder, he's done well in the shorter format, but in the long format of the 4-day championship, he didn't do so well. So there are room for discussion in my book as to how and when and who we should add in this West Indies test squad for July. Back to you. Mr. Dale?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. The big takeaways is, of course, from the team that played against Australia earlier this year. Tanj Narain Shandapal has been dropped, and Justin Graves from Barbados has also been dropped. Now, Shandapal, I know, did not have a great series, and neither did he have outstanding returns in the regional competition.
Mhm.
However, is that enough? He got a 10 test run. The question is that enough to disregard him completely now and replace him with whom? Now, Mikhail Louis from St. Kitts and Nevis you can't argue with him being in the squad, not at all. And he's an opener. The other opener is Zachary McCaskey. And I don't see where his returns were overwhelming to the point where you would bring him in place of Taj Narain Shandapal. So that is the one thing I would take away from all of this. And in terms of the middle order batsmen, when you see someone like the Dominican Cavern Hodge, 30 years old, not totally outstanding returns, but taking into consideration that some of the outstanding batters may not have been available due to T20 white ball cricket. But again, a name that keeps popping up and you wonder why they don't get a chance would be like a Shea Hope and why Hodge, because it's not that you're investing in the future where he's concerned. The bowling is interesting in that Roach will lead the attack. Seals is returning from injury and has been bowling well in the English second division, where he's the joint, as of today, he's the joint top wicket taker. Jason Holder, who it has now been revealed, had a shoulder injury. So obviously they believe that it will heal completely in time for him to be effective on the tour to England. And we have the two Josephs. So it will be interesting to see what combination of pace bowlers they will use, because we only have one specialist spinner in Buddha Kesh Moti, the Guyanese left-hander. And I don't know about him being successful, seeing that he is slow through the air, and how successful will he be in England if he gets to play in the test matches any at all. So that's my take for the time being.
I heard, as our fans begin to join our live stream, remember to subscribe to our channel, like this video. While you're watching, just press the like button and like this video. Also, we're encouraging for you to watch the ads, as they will go towards building up funds that will go towards us helping less fortunate cricketers. As we look into the test team, like for like, while a player performs wonderful in the 4-day championship, we have seen too much in our cricket that these players don't make the transition to the test team, because our 4-day championship is so, it's not of quality that a player can be transformed immediately from first class to international cricket. We also cannot be unfair to a player that is in the team and has not done badly, because in the makeup of this test team, when we look at Kevin Sinclair and what he has achieved in South Africa and also in Australia, also here in the Caribbean, it would be detrimental to keep him out and bring in a Rakeem Cornwall, who had his struggles. The thing is that Cornwall is doing good, but at the international stage, Kevin Sinclair hold his own, and we believe that it is one of the reasons why Dr. Haynes continues with him, because he's a very, very good all-rounder, and that's why he kept his place. We can't say the same for Zachariah McKiskey, because we have seen nothing of a sample size. Kevin Hodge, he impressed in Australia, and by virtue of that, he's going to continue. As for Justin Greaves, he was only brought to Australia because Jason Holder refused from touring. So the moment Holder become available, no matter what Justin Greaves would have done, despite people saying that he has the safest pair of hands in the slip garden, he would not have done enough to say to Holder, we're going to continue keeping you out. So on the basis of those, we have Kurt McKenzie that can go up to the opening slot if they so desire. I've been to Sabina Park over 10 times now. And out of the 10 times that I've been there, Mackenzie's there 8 of those 10 times training. So that is something to be noted, his interest. As for Lewis, Michaela Lewis, some would have called him Louis. When you look at the volume of runs that he accumulated in the 4-day championship, his interview, his consistency. Chandapal is in for 10 tests now. But all on a sudden, because of the returning John Campbell, that was unfairly banned. But that ban now is being run out in August, and we hope that after that, the Jamaican selectors will pick him so he can take back his rightful place. Because he has no competition, he has become complacent. He has not performed in Australia, despite going there the first year and performing well. He has no more hunger. And a young man that comes up performing in the way that he's performing, you would have to give him a shot. And I think Dr. Ains would have made the right decision in saying to take Chandapal, go back to Guyana and get it right. I don't know if I'll get anyone agreeing here, but the makeup of the team, if you look deeply through it, you will see that good sense sort of prevail where the team is concerned. Because Muti as well, when you look at his first class and line it up with everything, he continues to dominate. He has a first class 100. Not many spinners can boast of that. And it's on the basis of that, I think, he's going to continue to be there for a long time to come. Jaden Seals, his performance in England, his continuous performance speaks for itself. So with that being said, the team that is going to England, I think I would have taken out McKiskey and put in, the young man from St. Martin. I would have given him that spot. And how do you feel by the inclusion of Isaiah Chone as a developmental player that is basically the 16th man in the team and could potentially, if there's an injury, make his debut in England? And how do you feel about Michaela Louis making his debut at the iconic Lord's Cricket Ground, the home of cricket, and where James Anderson, the England leading wicket taker, will play his final test, becoming the first player from St. Kitts and Nevis to make his debut in Test cricket for the West Indies, because players from St. Kitts did play Test cricket, but they played it for England. But this would be the first St. Kitts player that will play Test cricket for West Indies. How do you feel about the history that is about to be created at Lord's Cricket Ground? Potentially.
Well, first of all, if I may, I don't think Shanda Paul has become complacent, as you mentioned, Junior. I think it's more both Shanda Paul and Craig Brathwaite are similar type batsmen. Mm-hmm. And you can have those pedestrian batsmen opening the innings. You have to have somebody who can push the score along, while the other one holds on the end. Because with both of them, the bowling will get on top of the batting if they're not somebody not pushing the score along and taking singles. And as you mentioned, Michael Louis, if he gets into the West Indies team, as I mentioned before, for that first test, he'll be the first Kittitian to wear the maroon cap. and we can't. You just can't get around 682 runs that he scored in the recent regional 4-day tournament. I think somebody mentioned Gudakesh Moti. Gudakesh Moti in my books I remember speaking with Sir Lancelot Richard Gibbs a couple of years ago, and Lance Gibbs talked about bowling in England and how conditions change from hour to hour, depending on high tide and low tide. He went into a whole description of high tide and low tide and how it affected the different pitches in England. So, but I think Moti is beginning to establish himself now as a premier spinner in the Caribbean. And I want to see him in the team now, to be given the chance. Junior mentioned the 19-year-old fast bowler Issa Thorne, and he's traveling with the squad as a development player, and I think that's good to be around the test team, and we'll see how he develops. But I think Kemar Roach there now as the veteran. And interestingly, I didn't even mention Kemar Roach as part of the fast bowling core because I think Kemar Roach at this stage is even less than medium pace. But he probably will start in this against England. And, that's my take on it for now.
And he has a poor record overseas.
Kemar Roach?
Yes, he has a poor wicket-taking record overseas, but nevertheless, he has taken wickets for Surrey there in
he
England.
Has, with 270 test wickets at less than 28 apiece, it's pretty good at a test level.
Yeah, but most of those came in the Caribbean. Mr. Brown, with the description that I gave, do we leave out Chandapal for a performing Michaela Louis? Because clearly one of the openers is dropped, and therefore Michaela Louis may be asked to open the batting, or as I suggest, Kirk McKenzie, which is a traditional opener, might be asked to step up and based on his mantra of training, where he is there at Sabina Park almost every day. Are the selectors onto something, and that which would translate into us springing a surprise upon England? And England, even though their team might look as how it looks, they at home is a very, very strong unit against any and every opposition.
Yes, no question. Michael Louis is essentially an opening bat. That's where he batted for the Leeward Islands and in first class cricket. So he would effectively be the replacement for Chandapal. The other opener in the squad is Zachary McCaskey. And that is where I have a problem because I don't see what he did to really command a place and just to replace Chandapal like that. Louis is overwhelming, so let's leave him out of it. I expect him to be in the first test team. McCaskey, is about the same age as Chandapal. And overall, Chandapal's career was not one where you'd say it warrants a drop per se. But I agree with John in his method of batting. Very slow, just in the same vein as Brathwaite, and it tends to clog up the top order, and bowlers get in, and the team get bogged down because of them. So I have no problem with Louis. However, McCaskey, I shake my head at that one because I don't see where and why he was picked. I think a better case could have been made for Casey Carty from St.
Yeah.
Martin, and he toured with West Indies A to Nepal with not much success. But you don't want to bring up someone and then drop them as soon as possible. You keep with them for a while, and it would
Yeah,
have been
but that
different.
tour, that tour to Nepal was, I think, did it include? I think it was for T20s.
Yeah.
Right, but he was in the setup. That's what I'm alluding to. He was in the West Indies setup, and his returns in the regional tournament
and
very
and not
similar.
to cut you, but to strengthen your point, we have seen some unfairness to the youngster in the World Cup qualifiers in Zimbabwe, where they were trying to make Powell into a batter, which he was not. And he was taken out of the playing 11 to facilitate Powell. Powell performed poorly. Then he was brought in, and the kind of patience that he exhumed and the kind of innings that he played strengthened his case of being included in the ODI team going forward. And just the way that he bats in ODI cricket tell you that he has some making for test cricket. And so on the base of those evidence, you're suggesting that he would have been a better pick than what they have, because it's not that they're struggling for openers, because if we have seen that Leon Johnson, the former captain of Guyana, was brought into the team, he never opened batting for Guyana, but he was brought in under the leadership of Jason Holder then, and during the presidency of Dave Cameron, to open batting, but he had never done it at the 4-day level. And what I'm suggesting is that, and this is not me defending Chandapal, but if they had a problem with Chandapal opening the batting, seeing is similar to the captain, they could have brought him into the middle and promote somebody else to open the batting, because I think we make people out of people, or at least we try to do it. But it never worked out with Leon Johnson, because it never worked out. He was discarded and never asked to play Test cricket again, despite him accumulating a lot of runs in the middle for Guyana then. So I just said that, interrupt you a bit, just to strengthen what you're saying as it regards to Casey Carty being given an opportunity to tour with the team and to gather some experience, even if he will not be featured in the 11.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cotlin. So the bigger question again, you need consistency, and if you are going to take a young man and put him and say he's a 2020 player, he's a one-day international player, as opposed to a test player, without giving him a chance, because he deserved it, not just because of his we're talking about Carty. not just because of a 2020 performance. He played well in the regional tournament, 4-day tournament. So I would imagine that had something to do with him getting selected also, and as you know, players throughout history, they may have been batting in the middle order, but for the test team, they would bat as an opener because that's where they can make their mark. And nearly all of the great batsmen at one time or another, they opened for West Indies anyway, from Frank Worrell, Vivian Richards, Garfield Sobers, Rohan Kanai, of course, Lawrence Road, they all opened and they made a name as middle order batsmen. But at some point, they opened for West Indies.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that, because I remember Lara opening, but Johnson was designated, which I think was a management issue there, was designated as the opener, and it never worked out. And because it never worked out, they discarded him, which I think was a bit unfair. With the performance of Kevin Sinclair, and for those that follow West Indies cricket will know that he's performing admirably well. And if it was not for the consistency of Ruston Chase, he would have been in the World Cup team right now, but Chase would have edged them out based on consistency. Are we being delusional in asking for Rakeem Cornwall? Because if we were to bring in Cornwall, we would have to ask Kevin Sinclair to sit out. But based on his performance in South Africa, Australia, and here in the Caribbean, where does the place sit or lies for a Rakeem Cornwall, who we know the establishment don't really in favor, but based on merit, on performance, as Cornwall outlive or outdo Kevin Sinclair. And if we were to discard Kevin Sinclair at this point, what would it do for his mindset? Mike Chambers will take this first, and then Mr. E.
My buddy Cornwall has a slight problem, and he's a little bit bigger than I am, so folks tend to pick on you when you are a little overweight. So I think what has been going on is a perception out in the world that the big players are no longer welcome to the game, and especially in Test cricket, because I think Cornwall, people are looking at him as not being able to do a 5-day stint because of the size. But if he slows himself down, he can apply himself. And I saw him make a century down in Florida a couple of years ago. And I would always want him on my team, whether I am playing T20 or I'm playing Test cricket, just for the fact that there is something about him that will explode at any time. Now, it's always nice to bring in a new player like Sinclair, even though he's performing, well. But I am surprised that Brother Heath didn't talk about Chase being one of the Test players, because I would back him up today if he had made that statement. I am upset that Shanda Paul is not there, but I'm going to leave it up to the selectors, because there's no way you're going to have a 3-man panel as selecting a Test team out of the West Indies. You need more people having input, because the West Indies is such a large, situation. All these islands, and you have to take all these different
views.
And it's not views, is perception, because you're looking at Jamaica. I alone, Brathwaite Blackwood would still be the vice captain, even though he failed in the recent games. I would want
Blackwood is horrible. His form is horrible.
I totally agree with you. And I like to talk from experience. There was a team coming from New York, an all-star team, came to Hartford to play an all-star Hartford team. The Hartford team was selected. Mike Chambers didn't even make water boy. The New York team came to Hartford and saw me sitting on the bench and said, "What's going on? You're not playing?" I said, "No, I wasn't selected." The New York captain said to his team, "Mike Chambers must play cricket today. So I am sitting down and I'm going to make Chambers a part of the New York team." Ladies and gentlemen, yours truly was MVP of the match. Why am I telling you that? I don't leave out old-time people for new-time something. They say, new broom sweep
but
clean.
He's not helping his case, Mike.
I know, but listen to what I'm telling you. I call up, and listen, you can call up WePop president, Wavell Hines. And I told Mr. Hines, you need to go out in favor of Campbell, because he's going through a traumatic experience that he experienced when he was a boy and still hasn't gotten over it, and nobody has made room for that. Blackwood is going through the same thing. Shanda Paul is going through the same thing. So every time these players fail, we're going to throw them aside. We're going to discard them. When the entire Cricket West Indies culture need mind power training, I keep saying that, and I sound ridiculous. Blackwood, if I get Blackwood for 6 weeks, Blackwood be the superstar that he was way back when. We need to look at these good players that we are throwing away. We are discarding these very good players. Look at Cornwall. So I would go with Cornwall over Kevin Sinclair any day.
Okay. Mr. Chambers, I appreciate the comment about not having Chase in the team. It's not that I wouldn't have him there. In fact, I suspect I would have him there rather than Moti, because not only does he come with the ability to give me a performance innings, but he can bowl basically the same stuff as Moti. Nonetheless, Brother Dale said, mentioned consistency, and in my book, consistency translates into performance. And consequently, Sinclair, and I apologize for that, I overlooked Sinclair, but Sinclair with his 508 runs was in the top 10 of run performers for the West Indies in this 4-day championship. So he, without a doubt, should be in that batters selection group that I made earlier. And Mikel Louis, undoubtedly, he has to be in the opening test. He had to be in the entire series, because I do not believe in giving him one match and then dropping him after 1 or 2 performances. So Mikel Louis should definitely be there along with Sinclair in terms of the selection process. Casey Carty, nearly 500 runs with an average of 41. Again, it appears to me that the West Indies have a very great group of players who have demonstrated their ability and their performance batting-wise, and that is a good thing. What I'm disappointed in is that we see in this group going to the West England, we have the coach and we have 3 assistant coaches going. Now I'm asking myself, why do we have a 15-man squad, but we need 4 coaches? At the same time, Isaiah Thorne, I think that's a good idea. But in addition to Isaiah Thorne, I think Joel Andrews should also be included, because he's another young man who's on the brink of performing to the peak, and he should go along with the.
That's true, but what should be reminded is that he will be in Ireland at the same time, taking on Ireland on the A team, and therefore it's similar experience that he's gathering.
Nonetheless, it's a question of where you select him to go. We're talking about a development player here, of Thorne going as a development player. I also believe that Andrews should be going as a developmental player. And in terms of Mackenzie has been given the opportunity and he's taken it in the past, but his form, average 25 last West Indies Championship, does not give him any selection privilege over Louis Athanase or Carty. So this is why I feel that performance. And Chanda Paul, I agree with the comments regarding Chanda Paul, big style of batting along with Brathwaite's style of batting. The two just does not gel. And that is a problem for West Indies. I'm sorry that the situation with Cornwall is such that he's being overlooked, but Cornwall, J. Louis, Philip, and Ned, again, those are the players we should be having when we have these opening and tour matches, so that we see on their performance how well they have been, they're capable of performing.
But you would replace Mooti with Ned.
Possibly, if I'm yes, because he's performed.
But I mean, forgive me, but has Ned done enough in just one season to Mooti has been, when you look at Mooti, and you could do your homework, when you look at Mooti and the other Guyanese in Verisamy Pamal, they have performed consistently for many years in the 4-day championship, and that would have warranted the place of Mooti within the team. And Mooti has done himself a lot of justice to remain. And Ned just performed in one season. I mean, would it be fair now to ask? It's more difficult for the man that is coming in than the man that is there. It shouldn't be so easy to break into a West Indies.
No, Mr. Codlin, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It has to be based on performance. And if you are performing,
but he just perform, and it is because those in the test team has not grabbed the opportunity with both hands.
That's right.
But this is why we are where we are in the rankings, because even though Louis performs so good, he should be even walking into a West Indies team, because you need to see these people over 2 or 3 seasons to know that when they go, because why I said it is because we have picked too many players and they have not transitioned from 4-day cricket into the international space. And we know, and we would agree, that international cricket is way above our 4-day championship, and that's why West Indies is number 8 in the ranking so many years now, because as a player perform in the 4-day season for one season, we throw him into the test team, and we're setting him up to fail, and this is why Chanda Paul, I believe, Chanda Paul only get in because Campbell was banned. That's the only reason they picked him. Now, what I'm saying is that the selectors and the administration in the Caribbean need to take a longer look on players, because the type of bowlers that we have here in the Caribbean They are not at elite level. And Ned doesn't reach the level yet to say to him, because Muti have gone on to other countries and performed for the West Indies. We only see Ned in the Caribbean.
Mr. Codlin, in everyday life, people are rewarded for performance. And there should be no difference when it comes to our cricket selection. People must be rewarded for their performance. And if you perform and you're given the opportunity, you will grow from there. If you fail to take the opportunity and grow, then you can be discarded, because there are others out there, such as the Ned, the Cornwall, the J. Louis, and the Phillips. These are the guys who should be given the opportunity when somebody else in there. In fact, the entire season of the West Indies last year, where is Alzari Joseph's wicket numbers? Well, I know he's a premier bowler, but at the same time, I can see Louis and Phillips with 29 wickets, 30 wickets, which is at the top. But I don't see where Alzari Joseph has taken any wickets during the 4-day championship. That's not to say he didn't, but he certainly did not appear in the top, 10, 15 of the West Indies championship statistics.
And then we would have to look on how many games he played, because for most of the 4-day championship, they were on West Indies duties. What I'm simply saying is that players are being rewarded for mediocre performances, because for one season, a player will excel, but for two, it's just like the fella, we don't reach there yet, but just to mention that Johnson Charles has been so inconsistent, and this is what I'm saying, that our players in the 4-day championship will excel this year, and then the next 2 years, there's nothing. Somebody might say, while the player is performing, pick him now while he's in his prime. But you run a danger in picking him. The case of Ned, what we would have to do is analyze, and I promise for the next show we'll have on screen the comparison with him and Muti. And that's why I was onto something when I said if you would replace Muti with Ned, because many Guyanese, which are, wonderful watchers of this show, especially in Georgetown, over 243 of them, and hello to all of you. Many of them would not agree to remove Muti to place Ned in, because Ned has not done enough as yet to say to Muti, give me way. Muti has done this thing consistently, he and Verisamy Pamal, which I think the West Indies selectors is very unfair with. And I just asked Mr. E to stay on because he's our United States correspondent. 159 for the last of 3, as opposed to 159 for the last of 7. Your comments on United States awesome victory over Pakistan in the Super Over. Both of them tied, but it was a Super Over. Your comments from the start to the Super Over, and your comments on this marvelous win by the US.
Yes, Mr. Codlin, this was a match in which I think Pakistan, from the opening ball, appeared somewhat timid and shy. Now, to give United States credit, they came prepared for the fight, and they certainly performed very well in that they held the Pakistanis to a very low total. And that total was sufficient and brought about by the bowling performance that the West Indies put up. Now, I've noticed in the past that when Mohammad Rizwan and Babar Azam succeed, Pakistan does very well. When one or the other fail, they do very badly. And this is another instance where we see one fail and the other does well, but the team as a whole seem not to grow with that performance. So when Rizwan got out, it was then up to Azam. And we saw that what happened. 159, they struggled. They got some runs in the later stage, but it was not enough. When the United States batted, they came out with fire in their eyes. And they performed very well. Credit to skipper Monank Patel. He was the glue in the United States side. And of course, they quietly almost gave it away when they lost those two quick wickets in the middle with about 50 or so runs to go, until Aaron Jones came in and did a reprieve almost of his
Caribbean man
innings. And he took matters into his hand, and I give credit for that final boundary that tied the match. That final boundary was the icing on the cake for the United States. Now, in the qualifying over, super over.
Yeah, the super over.
Pakistan, again, threw that away with 3 wides, costing them a total of 9 runs. And if we think about it, that's the difference between winning and losing, those 9 runs. United States did give away 4 runs, possibly 3, in terms of their wide bowling. But it was not as good a performance from the Pakistanis as it was from the America. Full credit to the United States. They did very well. All their players came to play, and they certainly deserve the success and the reward. 4 in a row, Bangladesh, Canada, and now Pakistan. Does that mean it's growing season for the United States? And we notice things have changed since they've appointed the new, I think Mr. Lawrence, the new coach, who had such
Stuart Law, the former West Indies coach, Australian batter.
With his tremendous amount of experience, he has brought it to show, and we see the success there. Back to you.
I'm tempted to go to Mr. Melbourne first, but I'll show this at Mike. Mike, when Pakistan was in the pool, pooling for coaches, Gary Kearson came on. Gary Kearson won a World Cup, the 2011 World Cup, 50 over World Cup in India under the captaincy of Mahendra Singh Dhoni when they won that World Cup. And everybody thought he's the biggest coach on this earth. His first World Cup with the Pakistan team. What a flop. You're coming.
You're talking about the T20 match the other day, right?
Absolutely. The USA flopped them.
All right. You see, everybody is looking at this thing upside down. Who is the sponsor for US cricket? What's the name of the new sponsor that just came on?
It's an Indian company.
All right. Anybody? I want the name because I want them to get credit. Amul something or another.
Oh, Amul, yes.
Is it Amul? Let me explain something to you. If that company had not sponsored US cricket, do you understand there would be no US team playing in the World Cup today? Because the players did not get paid. So as a result of money coming into US cricket, when Amul decided to sponsor the team and pay for everything, anybody understand that's what happened? That's where it was. The US is the most intelligent players playing in the World Cup, the team. If you look at all the players, they've had played in the US Open, they have played in college cricket tournaments in the US. Some of these guys are very educated. So all it took now was somebody to say, fellas, you don't have to worry about lunch tomorrow. You don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep. And so as soon as their mindset was placed at ease, you saw the team gel. It's not because they weren't good. It's because there was no US cricket. It came about when Amul decided to sponsor the team. And so I am not giving credit to any, what's the name of the guy? Ali Khan? That young fella that everybody's talking about.
Yes, he's
Ali
a bowler.
Khan, you know where Ali Khan was discovered? US Open down in Florida at the Mark Qureshi tournament. Nobody is giving Mark Qureshi credit for keeping US T20 and World T20 cricket going. It's Mark Qureshi, CCUSA, with all the money they're putting in. So kudos to US, and greater glory goes to Amul, who took their hard-earned money and decided to sponsor the US team. So that's my looking at that, sir.
John, when we were on set the last time, somebody was suggesting final between West Indies and India, and you said, why not Pakistan? A flop team, can they go to the final?
Not how they played against the US yesterday, certainly. And perhaps looking at the two games the US has played now, maybe we should stop underestimating this US team.
Correct.
You know, Mike talks a lot about the mind training, and mind training is probably coming forward with this US team. And their next game is against, is it India?
India, yes. Yes.
I am very curious to see how they will perform against India, because what I have seen in their two matches against Canada and Pakistan tells me that there is a little storm brewing in a teapot with this US team. And it will be interesting to see if they get into the playoff round, they go to the next round, how they will perform. There's a confidence in the team. And confidence is a hell of a thing when it comes to sport, I can remember as a youngster in high school, a good friend of mine who used to run the 400 meters. I think it might have been the last championship at Sabina Park. He came, he didn't really look so good coming into champs, but he got into the final of the 400 meters, class 1. And I said to him the evening, we used to call him Spots. I said, Spots, what's going on, man? He said, don't worry, Johnny, I'm going to win. And he became the first schoolboy to go under 50 seconds at the time it was a 440 yards. And Dwight Anderson, it was his name. So confidence is a hell of a thing, and the US is playing with extreme confidence at the moment, and I don't think they're going to be intimidated by India.
We shall see as it regards to, because India looks very dominant. Mr. Brown, what does this mean for Pakistan? Because if they don't win on Sunday, it could be curtains for them. And will we see the big hype, Gary Kearson, the former South African middle order batter and former winning coach of India, being one of the shortest coach in the history of Pakistan cricket, because those people don't take nicely to somebody coming in and their team being bamboozled in such a manner, because we know definitely that Sunday is the biggest game, with India winning all their games, the United States on a two-match winning streak. They're going to need to win one more game to have a outright chance of going to the second round. Do the maths for us, and so the viewers can and before I ask you to come in, let's bring some clarity here. USA, from the two matches they played, they win two, and their net run rate 0.626, 0.4. The Indians, they played one game, right? They played one game, they win that game. Their run rate is 3.065 and 2 points. Pakistan, we know. Canada now played one, lose one. Their run rate is 1.451 with no points, and Ireland 3.065. USA have a very, very good chance of beating Ireland. An outright victory for them there, putting onto their run rate, and Ireland beating Pakistan just before the World Cup could mean trouble for Pakistan. Your comments on Pakistan, then your take on the United States and the possibilities. You're muted.
Yes, Pakistan, by losing to the US, of course, is now in a very awkward situation, because they now cannot afford to lose the match against India that's coming up on Sunday. If they lose that game, it means that they will have to beat Canada and Ireland to have a shot. And the United States must lose their other games to Ireland and India. So for Pakistan, the matchup with USA and Ireland is of great, great importance, because if the USA wins, taking for granted that USA more than likely won't beat India, they have to go with the form and say they will not beat India. If they win one of those two matches to either India or Ireland, then Pakistan will not they have to beat India in order to advance. So they are behind the eight ball, as we would say. And that loss for them, it's not surprising, because Pakistan has a reputation of imploding in games such as these when you least expect it. And that's exactly what happened to them.
Ireland beat them in 2007 as well at the Cricket World Cup here in Jamaica at Sabina Park.
Yes. And, you can always, hindsight is 2020, but, that super over that was bowled was really, really very, not because they lost, but it is the manner in which they lost. You can't be bowling a six ball over and end up bowling
Nine
balls and the other team scoring 18 runs with only one boundary. The very first ball was a boundary, was a 4, And after that, it was a comedy of errors. And we have to give credit sometimes, and in trying to discredit persons, we have to make sure that we give credit to others. The USA went in with a left-right combination, left-hander, right-hander, and they were going up against a left-handed bowler. And that bowler is very effective against right-handers. But it also means that where he pitches the balls to the right-handers, those same deliveries can go down the leg side against the left-handers.
And they did.
And that is exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
We can say whatever, but those deliveries to Harmeet, the very first one was a wide. And they ran a by off of it.
Yes.
And when Jones got a single and it came back to Harmeet again, believe it or not, it was another wide. And again, they ran a by. So they got 2 runs for each of those. Yeah. And then now, when he came back to Jones, in overcompensating, he went wide on Jones, the right-hander, which normally he wouldn't have done. So it reveals a lot of things. A lot of things. Where, as I say, in discrediting the one, we have to make sure that we credit the other. And the US had a plan, they thought it out, and I, for one, would not have used Mr. Amir, given what has happened to him in the past. I, for one, would not have entrusted him with that last over. You know, and I won't beat up on him because I'm sure he feels very badly right now. But he just returned to international cricket. He just unretired and came back. And then you look at other incidents, you know, that happened with him. I would not have entrusted him with that last over.
No comments on the new appointed Pakistan coach, the one that were to win them the World Cup?
Well, one of the things, Mr. Codlin, that we like to believe is that people, they have a magic touch. And yes, they may, but it doesn't guarantee what was done yesterday. It's finished. Today is a new day. And regardless of Mr. Kirsten's successes, the point is he never achieved those successes with Pakistan. So he has to come and start all over and prove himself. And it's a whole different mentality that he's dealing with. And we don't know how it will pan out for him. I think Pakistan coaching their team is a volatile situation, very volatile. And I don't know, I haven't seen anything in his past to say he can handle it. You know, it's not easy being the captain or the coach for Pakistan.
Absolutely.
The coaches have to have the horses in order to win too, you know. The coaches
Absolutely.
might look great, but they have to have the horses too.
Yes, and speaking of horses, Mr. Melbourne, if you notice the horses, the trainers that win, they have the best horses, and the jockeys that win, they are the best jockeys. They also have the best horses.
So in other words, the combination, the whole makeup of the team has to be right.
That's right.
Yes, sir. The synchronicity of the team has to be correct, sir.
Yeah, but Mike, would you say it's the personnels? Would you put it down to simple mindset, because a lot of changes happen in the Pakistan team over the last 2 months? Drastic changes where one of the players, Parker Zaman, said that Pakistan is getting too many new coaches. Something there to tell you that they're not welcoming of a foreigner, bearing that the assistant coach, Masood, is a Pakistani, and Pakistan doesn't believe in home coaches. Mohamed Hafiz brought the team to Australia as well. He was booted out after that tour. What's happening with the mindset of Pakistan? Did it come down to that yesterday, why they could not? Because I don't think they came into the game without a plan. It was just never executed.
You remember what I said? US won because of Amul, the sponsor. That's the only reason why they won. Pakistan is losing because Imran Khan is in jail. When you have a dysfunctional society, it follows through everything. Pakistan, and listen to what I'm going to say, Pakistan will never be successful again until the Pakistani government and the Pakistani people recognize what Imran Khan did for cricket and for Pakistan's cricket. When people see your spiritual leader being oppressed, the entire society becomes dysfunctional. The dysfunctionality of Pakistan, everybody is seeing it. It's out there. US was lucky that Amul brought funds into the US camp so that the players could be relaxed and they could, like we would say in Jamaica, eat a food. You know, when you can eat a food, how comfortable that is?
Absolutely. The views on the former Pakistan captain and former Prime Minister of Pakistan is solely that of Michael Chambers and not of us here at the Development Academy. We think differently as it regards to Mr. Khan and his stewardship of the Pakistan country and its cricket. You know, Mr. Eat, in dissecting what has gone on with Pakistan and the loss that they suffered at the hands of the United States, and if you would reach back and remember on our last show when we talk about as we make the transition now to our final topic, when we mentioned that in every World Cup, a team, there has to be an upset. And the first one was yesterday. If West Indies is caught napping, are we about to see now you and Mr. Melbourne could not have talked extensively on Uganda, bearing that you have never seen them play. But now they have played 2 matches. What can we expect tomorrow? And should West Indies win, should it be decisive enough to send a message? Because there are questions and a rebuttal must be made. How should that rebuttal be scripted tomorrow against Uganda? And if it is not so, what are we about to witness tomorrow at Georgetown, Guyana, at the National Stadium?
First, West Indies must go into this match, I say, with the same team that they played the last match. However, we have to be mindful that this time West Indies come prepared. Uganda, reeling from 2 losses, will be a team that is out to try and save some face.
Not 2 losses, 1 loss.
1 loss, all right. But nonetheless, they beat Papua New Guinea, if I remember correctly, a team that the West Indies struggled to put away. So West Indies have to go into this match tomorrow with the mindset that this is an opportunity to pull back and save their face, because currently Afghanistan has a net run rate of 6, whereas the West Indies have a net run rate of 0.6, which means that West Indies have to be extremely dominant tomorrow, or else they run the risk of not coming top of their group, but struggling to make it through to the next round because they have to play Australia. I think it's Australia or England. And that is not a game that can be put in
No,
New
we played
Zealand.
my
New
apologies.
Zealand and then Afghanistan.
And, right.
Mhm.
So they will still have to play Afghanistan, and Afghanistan have the bit between their teeth. And so I think without a doubt, first, leave the team as it is. Second, make sure you execute the plan. And three, it has to be strong enough to overcome that net run rate that Afghanistan has, because right now Afghanistan is on course to be the leader or the winner of that group, which might make a lot of give them a lot of the impetus that they need to go forward in the Super 8.
So I think there's
Before
another thought.
you come in, John, I just want to, because this is our last segment, I just want for Mr. E to say the decisiveness of the victory that is expected by the West Indies. How badly do you expect West Indies to beat Uganda tomorrow, to send a strong message to Afghanistan and New Zealand that we are here, and what happened against Papua New Guinea was just a warm-up. We are awake and we are ready. How should West Indies approach the game tomorrow? The mind, maybe I should say mindset. How should they approach tomorrow game? What is your expectation, the margin of win that you expect tomorrow?
Well, it has to be that if West Indies win the toss, without a doubt, they're going to have to put Uganda into bat so that they can knock them over in a reasonably low amount of overs and runs, and then go in and dominate, much to the effect like India did with Ireland. That is the level to which I'm expecting. I'm not saying that they'll be total walkover, but that's the level.
We hear you on that. John?
While net run rate plays a role in the 2020 cricket, you know, I am not too concerned with net run rate, because as long as I win, then net run rate is moot. You beat Uganda tomorrow, you beat New Zealand, and chances are winning 3 games out of the 5, out of the 4, you're in the next round. And that's really all that matters, going and win the games. Now we're comparing the West Indies game against Papua New Guinea with Uganda's game against Papua New Guinea. And they bowled out Papua New Guinea for 77, while they made 150 something against West Indies. But West Indies were able to make the runs. Uganda
130 odd.
Yeah, Uganda lost 7 wickets in trying to get those 77 runs. So it to me it's like track and field. One runner runs one place and run a blazing time, and another one runs a mediocre time. But when they meet on the same track, the guy who ran the mediocre time will beat the guy who just ran a fantastic time. And I always wait for the horses to be on the same course to see how they perform. So I expect West Indies to beat Uganda, and whether they win big or win small, I really don't care. I just want us to win, so that we can go into the game against New Zealand now with some modicum of confidence, and go ahead and beat New Zealand too. So the game tomorrow, a win for West Indies.
Mike?
Yes, sir. I just hear what Brother John said, but I like what Brother Dennis said, because the net run rate is what stays on the board. The amount of runs that you score don't come into play. No, I watch Afghanistan bowlers perform the other day. So if I am picking, I would love to see West Indies go through. I was telling somebody the other night and I was crying. It might be Afghanistan and New Zealand based on run rates.
Right.
Because everybody is going to probably end up with the same amount of wins. And the run rate is what is going to push somebody
But
through.
not to interrupt you in a large part. New Zealand have had less than ideal preparation for this World Cup, which their own players are up in mud over. They have not played a game as yet. So are we reading into them too much at this time?
No, listen to what I said. It's only 2 teams going to go through. So what Brother Heath said, the runs rate is what should be up there. So you have to be looking at runs rate at this time, because everybody might win the same amount, and then it's your run rate now that who going to decide the 2 that go through. So New Zealand might not make it, or West Indies might not make it based on their run rate. So we have to be careful now. And with the Pakistan losing, I am fearful that 2007 is going to repeat itself, where Pakistan gets knocked out in the first round and a lot of violence took place. So that's all I'm looking at.
Mr. Brown, honorary secretary of the Cricket Hall of Fame and also a fellow journalist. When we see what's happening here with our West Indies team, what do you believe or think that West Indies need to do now? Because, and before you answer that, for the information of the viewers and their satisfaction, and as they watch this show, please like the video, please leave a comment. That will help us in this show going far and wide. Uganda have never played Afghanistan before, never exposed to the quality of spin bowling that we have seen on show against them from Afghanistan. That, do you expect New Zealand players to fall in the same manner, being more exposed and more developed, more of a better quality team? Because if you put all these things, the variables, into action, Uganda is far from being a team that is able to cope with even a team that is just starting out like the United States. Are we hyping up Afghanistan too much with one game, and that against an opposition that is not experienced? Their players has never been exposed to this quality bowling that we have seen showed out against them, against Afghanistan. West Indies went a few years ago to lockdown in India, beat Afghanistan 3-0, whitewashed them in the one-day international, despite Afghanistan throwing out all their spinners against Phil Simmons' coach team, captained by Pollard at that time. So are we now saying to the viewers and to everybody that all of a sudden West Indies and New Zealand will crumble under Afghanistan spin bowling that, I mean, we have seen in other conditions that it has not held up. It has not lived up to what many might believe it can be, and the pitch in Georgetown there at the National Stadium is conducive to spin, and where we play Afghanistan, that's in St. Lucia, it might not be so because it's the fastest pitch in the Caribbean and it is conducive to fast bowling. So are we setting up ourselves, and are we leading the viewers to believe that all on a sudden Afghanistan have a bowling attack that will win this World Cup?
Okay, Mr. Codlin. First, I don't believe we are setting up, or anyone is setting up the viewers in that regard. It's that the group the group is a very dangerous group, because Afghanistan, they certainly can beat either the West Indies or New Zealand. Today we'll answer a lot of questions because they play New Zealand today. And if they beat New Zealand, and considering that they'll be playing Papua New Guinea and West Indies next, it simply means that West Indies will more than likely have to beat them when they meet in that last match in the group stage for the West Indies.
In St. Lucia.
Yes.
On a fast bowling pitch.
On a fast bowling pitch, right. However, if New Zealand wins, it is better for the West Indies. West Indies will have to beat one out of the two teams, I believe. Depending on which of them win today. If it's Afghanistan or New Zealand, whoever loses, we have to beat the loser of this game today in order to advance.
Let's bring John Melbourne equation into place now and match it back to Mr. Heath equation. West Indies beating Uganda tomorrow, beat New Zealand in Trinidad at the Brian Lara Stadium, then go on to Afghanistan and beat them. And you are the analyst where it concerned to the mathematics here. Does net run rate comes into the equation there?
The honor wheel.
Okay. Once we beat Uganda, beat Afghanistan, beat New Zealand. If there is a run rate question, would it apply to us or the other teams? Because no two team can win all their matches in the group.
Correct. So as Mr. Melbourne correctly pointed out, we solved that problem by winning all the matches.
Yeah, we're clear.
The problem comes in now if we do not win all the matches. Yeah. So to cover all the bases, because fools rush in where angels don't dare to go.
Yeah.
So we have to back up ourselves just in case. And what we want to do is not just to win, but you want to win for psychological reasons also. We beat Papua New Guinea, but in a way it almost felt as if it was a loss because the players did not perform very well as a group. So for me, better performance by the bowling unit, because I, for one, was not impressed with the way in which Mr. Alzarri Joseph bowled, especially against those quality batsmen that he was bowling against. Go be aggressive in your bowling and bowl them out. Don't be there playing around, bowling short and they're hitting you over the place. Don't do that. Bowl them out. You know, we expect better execution by the batsmen take singles, rotate the strike, and push for when you have a single, take off, put the fielder under pressure don't just walk through the single. Don't just jog through the single. Run and put the fielder under pressure. And the same Afghan team was very impressive to me in that they took a lot of twos in when they played against Uganda. Yes, it was Uganda, but they took off for that first run and put the Ugandans under pressure to make a good throw, or they fumbled the ball or something, and then they were able to complete the 2 runs. And West Indies need to execute those basics. And we expect a better performance against Uganda, because Uganda really and truly should not make 100 runs against West Indies if the bowlers bowl well.
That is decisive. That's a decisive comment there in regards to what you expect tomorrow. Mr. Heath, if you were allowed to make one changes or force change, who would you bring in? And I said that because I phrased the question that way, because you from the last show was asking for no changes at all. But if there has to be a change, who would you bring in?
Well, it just depends on where, but if we're looking at the batting side, the batting area, then obviously I would bring Shai Hope in for presumably Charles.
If it was the bowling?
For the bowling, I am in two minds about the bowling. I think we need to give Alzari the final warning here that he has to come up and perform. Vice captain or not vice captain, he can still be dropped. So we give him the opportunity to perform. And if he doesn't, then we have to think twice. But no, I would go for, leaving the team as it is.
All right. Mike, unmute your mic and your comments on the 11. I know from the last show you wanted to finish with Johnson Charles. Are you still in that mindset?
No. If I had a change, Shai Hope would be in, Charles would be out. So there's no question about that. But if you remember, we took mind power training to Uganda. You introduced mind power training to the under-19 squad.
Yeah,
the manager of that team introduced mind power to the Uganda senior team. I hope you realize that.
Yes.
Now, here is what I am going to say. The last person who read the mind power manual is the one who's going to win. So if West Indies has not read the manual, Uganda is going to beat them tomorrow. Remember, I told you so.
All right. Mr. Melbourne, would you, if you had to make a change tomorrow, opening, rather not opening, batting and bowling, who would you bring in?
I guess the consensus is
the president guy comes in?
Yeah, I guess the consensus is Shai Hope coming in for Johnson Charles now, because I am a Shai Hope believer. I believe he should be in the 11 in any case. And I was kind of surprised that he was not selected for the first game. As far as Alzari Joseph goes, I think the history shows that he has not been a particularly good 2020 bowler,
No,
and I was kind of surprised.
But to be fair, John, if you look on stats, the stats would not back you up where that is concerned. He is our leading bowler in white ball cricket over some 2 years now here in the Caribbean.
In the 50 over game, but I think he comes up a little short in the 2020 game. But yes, he has to step up to the plate. I don't know if it's a question of where he's used, whether he's used early or used later in the innings. So you know, but
in that word, in that breath, you would put it down to the captaincy then, because a captain has to use his bowlers in the right areas. So I mean, we can't put all the weight on the vice captain. The captain must share some of the blame for the bowler lackluster performance.
I don't know if you can say the captain has to share the blame. I think it goes back to what the discussion is in the changing room before they take the field,
Okay.
and how they're going to work on the field. So you know, maybe not necessarily that the captain takes all the blame on how he uses it. It's a discussion before they go on the field. But you know, I guess wherever Azar they use Azari, he should be able to be more, if I want to say, dominant as a bowler. I believe in bowling wicket to wicket. The short ball, now and then you bowl the short ball. If the wicket is, if it's a, you bowl a fast wicket, yes, the short ball is a weapon. But if it's not if the wicket is not a fast bowling wicket, then I want to just bowl, use my talent, my speed, and bowl wicket to wicket. You know, to try to upset the batsman. But you know, I'm looking for. I hope he has an improved performance tomorrow.
So the consensus is bringing in Shea Hope that in the World Cup game, warm-up game against Australia, did not perform to desire. The consensus is to replace him with the inconsistent Johnson Charles.
Well, you know what is interesting though, Junior? When you look at the averages, the 2020 averages of both players, you know, they are very close, you know. There's really nothing to speak about.
Yeah, but Johnson Charles has been there. He is a World Cup winner and just scored a century in the format and performed rather good in
Yeah, but
the
he has been
matches
inconsistent as a
against South
he has
Africa.
been inconsistent as a batsman. I
Yeah,
expect more from him.
right. That's where we have to leave it. We'll be back. We'll be back. I'll be on to read some World Cup news before we come back as a panel. We'll come back Monday to analyze the win against Uganda, the potential win for the West Indies. You know, we can't nail it down because with this World Cup, things are happening. You know, so you know, we'll see what happens. But that's it from us. Remember, viewers, go ahead, Mr. Daly.
I'm sorry, Mr. Codlin, just one quick minute. I just want to mention captaincy.
By all
And,
means.
you know, that's very crucial, sir, because Alzari Joseph bowled the sixth over and never returned to the attack until the 14th over. And then did
Which
not
is a
bowl.
crunch moment.
Yes, but then from the 14th over, he never bowled again until the 17th over. So he never bowled back-to-back overs, which would tell me he wasn't allowed to get into rhythm. And then he was brought back for the last over, the 20th over. And the inconsistent use of the bowlers, like Hussein got 3 out of the first 7 overs and then never bowled again. And he was by far the most economical bowler. So I would expect to see the captain have a much more established plan for using the bowlers and use them much more consistently.
Good answer.
Because remember, you know, I think our last panel, I thought, well, the game against Papua New Guinea, I question how he used the bowlers. Our captain, you know.
Well, does that not echoes game plan with the coach?
Yes.
Yes, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
the
That's why I
coach.
said discussion in the dressing room
Dressing
before
room.
they take the field.
Yes, yeah. Mr. Chambers, we looking for Mr. Codling. We may have.
Oh, we've lost him.
We
All
may
right,
have
so ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming on this evening or today. It was a pleasure talking about the US victory over Pakistan. And now we are looking forward to Jamaica lining up against Uganda.
West
Jamaica.
Indies.
Game
Jamaica.
against
West
Uganda
Indies.
lining up against West Indies, cricket West Indies. So let me go around the horn. Can we predict, Mr. Heath, who you going with? West Indies, Uganda?
I'd be terribly disappointed if West Indies didn't win this one. So, you know, I'm putting all my money in that pot.
Brother John?
Share the same sentiment.
Brother Dale? You're muted.
A comprehensive victory, sir, for the West Indies.
Okay, and like I said, whoever read the Mind Power book, the last will win this one. Once again, thank you all, our
Thank
visitors,
you.
our viewers, and we will see you all. Brother Codlin is back, so he will once again take the host. Brother Codlin, you're on. Go ahead.
Yeah, just wrap it up, Mike. I'm having internet issues.
It's okay, we just wrapped up, so we will be back on here Monday to analyze the West Indies Uganda game. Thank you all. See you all next time.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.